It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmick Voice. Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmick Voice. This is Season 6, Episode 6. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
What's up, what's up, what's up?
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show. Chris, welcome back aboard the Space Shuttle. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing well, brother. Just, chilling, floating around in space, looking at the world beneath us. It is all good. I'm doing well, man, doing well.
I like being in space. I am weightless. It doesn't matter what it says on the scale. I am weightless. Calories aren't a problem up here. As we go into the holiday season.
Oh, dude.
Like I said in some other episodes, I've already packed on my 8 to 10 for the holiday season. So God knows what the first of the year is going to look like. This has been a tough 6 months, man.
Oh, bro, Wawa gobblers, it's just ugly, man.
It's just been
ugly.
Yeah. I was at an expo just not too long ago, and they provided everyone with a free lunch. Free and food and me just don't work out. Brother, I swear to God, I think they started serving. I was there at 9:30. They started serving at 11. They kept the food out till about 2. From 11 to 2, I didn't stop eating.
You're just snacking.
But I was doing it in smaller plates, so I didn't look like, right. But it was nonstop. It was not. I go, let me try it. Let me see, and then let me, and oh man, it's not good. It's not good. That's why I don't do it like that. So.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Not to blame COVID for anything, but I haven't been right since then. My whole whatever. But
no, dude, no. All that stuff went out the window.
We're like 3 years past, and I'm still riding that crutch.
Still blaming COVID.
I'm still blaming COVID on my calorie issues. People are blaming it on the financial issues. Lost their house, don't have a job. So my biggest problem is my calories. Yeah, eating.
My eating
terrible.
Habits. Ruined.
I was on such a system, and then that all went out the window. So anyway, what have you been up to, man? Anything going on?
No, nothing. Nothing. Like I've just been saying for the past couple episodes. Both bands are just in recording, and that's it, man. Nothing else. And it's kind of hard to play around the holidays. You know that. I mean, we do have a couple of shows, but nothing real crazy going on, man. Nothing crazy. Just watching the music business and this the craziness that it is.
Yeah, it's like looking at an apocalyptic scenery of what's happening in some places.
Escape
it's
from
crazy.
New York.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like everything's blazing around you, and you're just kind of walking through it. And I know some people are going to say, "Oh, that's so dramatic," and why are you still doing it and all that? Well, there's those reasons too. Check out episode 1 of this season; it'll tell you why. But it really is like it's just a crapshoot on things. Like we were talking right before we went on air. Like, listen, it's always been a shady business, right? You've known it, right?
Yeah,
There's
of course,
always
of course,
been a shady
of course.
business.
Yes.
But it seems that the shady has gotten even shadier, if that's even possible. I guess it is. The darkest regions are really dark. It's terrible.
Well, I think it's all, I think too with, the business and how bad it has gotten. It's also, we have a voice now, you know what I mean? With the internet and social media, and, a lot of things have been exposed. There's been a lot of things that have always been there, but we never knew about it. I was just telling my mom this the other day. I don't know how we got, I guess we were talking about, silliness, but we were talking about animal videos, right? Like just random animal videos and how things that people catch it. She was like, why all of a sudden is all this animal? And I said, well, it's always been there. We never saw it, right? Like now everybody's got their phone in their hands, so everybody's videotaping everything because they want that millions of views, or they want to be the next hot thing, or maybe they're just doing it random, you know what I mean, like somebody celebrating their dog or their cat or whatever. It's more common now, right? Like, it's just, we see things now because of the internet and social media and phones, and you and I are big Disney fans, and over the past X amount of months there's been a lot of video, at least over the summer anyway, a lot of video footage of fighting, people fighting in the parks, and people go, I didn't, it's always been there, we just see it more now. It is a different world, and it's probably more common than it ever has been, but there's always been stuff there, but we just see it now because we have phones and all this stuff. So yeah, I think with the music business, I think with we're learning more because a lot of people have been speaking out as of late. Those legend artists that are now getting older, who have nothing to lose, are now spilling their guts. We're learning it. We're learning it because of the other bands and other people are talking, other artists are talking.
Yeah, I agree. I do think, though, you're right. A lot of this has always been there. But I do think that there were certain areas that you knew you could still go to and have a legitimate shot without getting... Like, you knew where the shady areas were, and you just avoided them, right?
Yes.
I mean, listen, there's no secret that even your heroes from the 80s and the 90s or whatever, selling your soul for rock and roll type of thing, well, that's what a lot of these guys did. And they sometimes walked away with nothing. Some walked away with something. Many walked away with nothing. There's always been this dark side, but didn't trickle down everywhere. There was still some decency, but it seems a lot of the decency is just right out the window. And what you're saying is people are doing it out in the open now, and they have no qualms about it.
No qualms.
And some things are being accepted, and other people are like scratching their head going, oh, man, wait a minute, So, because there's no fear anymore, because we have a choice, but we don't have a choice, right? For bands, there's really less of a choice of where you can play these days.
Yeah.
And we'll go back to COVID again, I know people don't even want to hear about that, but we're still dealing with all of that. And we're going to be dealing with it for a couple of years still to come. We're just not going to attribute it to COVID. People aren't going to be saying, well, it's because of COVID. Well, that was 5 years ago. That was 10 years ago. Well, in 20 years, we're post-COVID, a huge amount of things will change and how people lived, but that was your pin drop point. Just like 9/11, 20 years following that, a lot has changed. Air travel, just traveling in general has changed. The way people can get in and out of countries, the way you're looked at in your own country. I mean, within a few more months or another year, we're not even going to be able to travel through the United States without a passport. We're citizens, and we can't do it.
Yeah, and it's so hard for American bands to play Europe because they're still feeling the effects of COVID. I talked to a couple friends from overseas, and they're having a hard time. It's hard for American bands to get there, and vice versa. It's hard for some European bands to get there, even the bigger bands, right? Like Anthrax had issues going over there and had to cancel their tour. I guess about a year ago or so. So it's still tough, man. It's still tough, and we will feel this effect. We probably won't see the touring cycle like it was in 2018, 19, 17, 18, 19. We probably won't see that for another couple of years.
Agreed. Like we were talking about in previous episode about, like his touring becoming extinct for the indie and the trench bands. I think a lot of bands are going to be limited, continue to be limited because of what's available to them. Like I said, we have choice, and the choice is we either do it or we don't do it. Okay?
Right.
There's not a lot of middle ground anymore. So if you want to do it, then your choices there are even limited because there's not a lot of places to play. You want to play it, you got to play ball. You're not going to play ball, well, you don't play it, and now where are you going to go? You got to, and there's that type of thing. Like the dark side, so to speak, is taking more of a chunk of everything so that it's affecting a greater population of indie in the trench artists or artists in general, right? So it's a tough thing. So it's like we've been talking about. It's up to us to make these changes. We have to stand up. Unless we do that and say, no, I'm not going to pay that. No, I'm not going to relinquish this right or that right or whatever. Then it's just going to continue to go as long as another band steps up and go, I'll do it.
And that's the thing, right? There's, if you don't do it, there's always going to be a line of bands or artists behind you willing to take that spot.
Right. Pretty soon, I think that we're going to move over to 100% of everything is pay to play to do. Get your music out there. You already have to pay to do it. To have your press releases out there, guys are already doing it. Since COVID, it's gotten to become more of a commonplace. They come to you for an interview, then they want you to pay for it. They want to put you in their magazine, you got to pay for it. Whatever, it's everything. You want to play at this particular place, you got to pay for it. You got to do this. Yeah. Everything's a pay. And the funny thing is we're still, as artists, not being paid. We're doing the paying. But we're not being. We have to pay to be up on streaming services, but we barely get anything. We don't even get. We don't even get like 5% of what we put out for distribution.
Right. And isn't that the big actor strike right now? At the time of recording this, it's still going on. All these executives and big wigs who are making millions and millions and millions of dollars from streaming are not paying the people properly that are actually putting the stuff together to stream it. How is that fair? It's the same thing. It is the same thing that we're feeling as musicians.
That's it. Record companies, distributors, film industry, whatever, they figured out how to capitalize on the internet and the streaming services so they don't have to pay what they were paying before to the people that put everything together.
That's right.
Because in the long run, that streaming service is compounding unbelievable amounts. That's why you got companies buying up other companies to buy up whatever they have in their warehouses, their catalogs, and whatever. It's just stockpiling. I just recently heard an episode of Eddie Trunk, and he's talking about, he was saying the same thing. It's like, why would you pre-order anything? You're letting your money sit in a bank account and gaining this interest. And again, interest today sucks, but if you have 10,000 people pre-ordering, well, now your interest changes, right? Because of the compounding. The amount that you put in.
Yes, I agree. Here's the thing about pre-ordering too that me and my close friends have been running into lately, because we love to pre-order. Packages, you get the CD and shirt, vinyl, whatever. Here's the problem: they're telling you the release date is such a date. The reason you pre-ordered it because you were supposed to get it a day or two, ahead of time, the release date. Now I've run into a couple of situations where I didn't get the release till a week or two after, and I had a friend of mine who just ordered off of Amazon and had it the next day. Like, are you kidding me? Like, how am I'm ordering it right from the label, the record label, and I am not getting it when I'm supposed to be getting it.
Because your pre-order money is paying for everything to get done, and sometimes it's not done on time, and then depending on your level of, like distributors will get it first before those pre-order customers, individual customers get it. Yeah, Eddie Trunk was saying, why would you pre-order it? Just to get it that day? You could order it that day and have it the next day or 2 days later. What's the difference of a day? It's like, it doesn't make any difference anymore. Things aren't in limited supply like that. Most stuff is print on demand these days. So it's like, whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
See what I mean? Like, everybody's figuring out a way to get their payday. I get that. I understand that. And that's okay. That's capitalism. That's what this country's built on. Coming up with innovative ways to get people to spend money so that you can make a living and continue doing what you're doing. But the flip side of that is you have to keep your integrity as a business, as a product, whatever, as a service, and deliver on what you say, what you promise.
Yes.
And like you said, there has been time and time again. I've seen people being posted on some DJ friends of ours. They posted on Facebook. It's like, I pre-ordered this and I'm still not getting it. Yeah. Like, now there's like a 2-week delay, 3-week delay, but the album's already out.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. So why would you pre-order? And you know that the ticket companies are doing it, especially when a show is pulled or postponed or rescheduled. They're sitting on that money. They're making money.
That's what the big thing. Speaking about COVID, right? Wasn't that the big thing that all these people, especially Live Nation, had tickets for stuff, and then when stuff started getting canceled, they were like, "Oh no, we're not going to refund your money. We're going to let it sit in your account." No, because half the country is out of work at this point. Give me my money back. Why am I going to let you make interest off it when I need it?
Right. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, and they've already made their money on the insurance, and they've done this, and they've done that, and everybody's making this, that, and the other thing. And you know what the funny thing is So you buy your ticket, you go and you pay for parking there, right? That's what you do. That's what people did. And you're usually paying these guys, and that goes to the whole parking thing. Well, now you can pre-purchase parking, and that money's divided like 100. Like now they figured out a way to get a piece of parking, right? And these guys are getting less, and because if you don't pre-purchase parking, you can't get a spot. You're not guaranteed a spot. You're parking 80 blocks away in an area that you don't want to be walking. You're probably running. You're probably being chased.
100%.
It's just a crazy, crazy system anymore.
It really is.
I understand you want to make money. I get it. If you're bleeding dry, the people that, if done right, will continue taking care of that industry, if you wear them out, they're not there anymore. What are you going to do?
That's right.
And hence why, if you think about it, at one point, CD sales were like $17, $18, $19. Like, that's crazy. Even then, it was crazy. So people got, so you understand, like with streaming, I can buy it for 99 cents. As crazy as that sounds now, then it was so revolutionary. Like, are you kidding me? That's like, and then I have access to it immediately. And what all, I mean, we're looking at it 20 years later, 25 years later, whatever it is. It's silly now to even think about that. But then, that was like, oh my God, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I don't have this bulky stuff laying around. I don't have any trash. And there was just all this thing, It was kind of like, when color TV came out. Like, what? The world out there in Hollywood isn't in black and white? It is what it is. That's the way it goes.
That's our show for tonight.
That's our show. Good night.
For tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in.
It's Russ the Boss.
Take it down.
This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
All right, so we'll get to the topic. And the topic of this show is auditioning the new guy. Boy, and Chris and I have a lot of experience on that. Auditioning the new guy. What do you think, buddy? Give us some insight on what that is.
We do, man, because we've been auditioning people pretty much around the same exact time. You and I have had the same issues for the exact same period of time. Auditioning the new guy. Well, so the first thing that comes to my mind is, are you a single artist who calls the shots, which is okay. I'm not judging. Or are you a band? Maybe you're a band with one main guy. We've had this conversation before. And I want to speak from my experience. For my opinion, I like to have an open communication with the guys in my band, because we all have to make this decision together. So if I know what we're looking for, the kind of person that you want in your band, obviously you want someone in your band that's going to be a team player. It's going to be a nice, decent human being. Hopefully there's no red flags. I mean, we all have our own little quirks and stuff like that, but you have to talk about that. So when you find that guy, that audition, and I just recently, well, at the time of recording this, I just recently auditioned a new drummer for Seeds of Perdition. When we talked about auditioning him, because I know how difficult auditioning is, right? Like, I know what it's like to walk into a room of strangers and you play your instrument or whatever, and you want to make a good impression. It's just like a job. You want to make a good impression. You don't want to be too raw, but you don't want to be too held back. You're just trying to find that middle ground and be yourself. And, you're nervous, and you're meeting these people for the first time. And so when my new drummer walked in the room, the first thing I said to him was, hey man, look, this is an audition. We're not going to make a decision tonight. I mean, unless it's completely mind blowing. I said, relax, breathe. Just do your best, and if you have any questions, any concerns, bring them up. We're not touring the world tomorrow. We're not recording tomorrow. Just breathe, relax, do your best. We will work through anything that you need to be worked through. You want to make that person feel comfortable, right? Like, you don't want them to stress them out. It's already stressed out. They're already learned 2 or 3 of your songs, depending on how you audition, or maybe they're walking in blind, which to me would be worse. But if they know a couple of songs and they've been listening to it, and I even personally, like if I listen to recorded stuff and then I go into, if we decide that we're going to do a cover, I'll learn it at home. Then when I get to rehearsal, I'm like, okay, now I have to sing this on my own. I'm not singing along with the person I was listening to. So same thing. So if the new person's coming into your band has done his or her homework, then they're going to know the song that you're doing, but it's also going to be, they're actually going to be playing it without hearing the instrument of that position or fulfilling, if that makes any sense at all. I know in my head what I'm trying to say. When our drummer, his name is Eric, when Eric walked in, that's the first thing I said to him. Hey man, listen, no stress, let's relax. We'll run through a couple songs and we'll take a couple minutes and we'll redo it again. If you have any questions, if you want to stop, you stop. Like, we are on your time. Whatever makes you feel comfortable, because we want you to feel comfortable. If you want to be part of this project, then we want to make it as easy for you as possible. Eric is a pro. He came in, he knew the material very well. It was very stressful for him, and I saw it. When the song would be done, first thing I would say to him, hey man, that was great, dude. That was awesome. Sound good. You know, let's try this again. You know, let's talk through the parts that maybe you missed or messed up. No big deal. Let's do it again. Do you want to take that section? Do you want to do the whole song? And then after every song, I would say, hey man, that was great. Let's do it again, or whatever, you know, whatever. This is my experience. You know, in the middle of the night, we took a break. We kind of hung out. You know, we had some water and just talked about life and where, you know, he was at that time of his life and what he's done in the past. And we just told some war stories, and then you know, we went back to jam, and then we tried to make him feel as comfortable as possible. So then the next time he came back, he was really relaxed because he knew what he was getting into. He knew us. We had talked. He had met us. We had a few laughs. And then ever since then, it's been very, very relaxing. The past couple of weeks he's officially been in the band a couple of weeks at this point, but before we announced him as our official drummer, by that time he was super comfortable, and we were very comfortable with him, and we were very happy, and you know, it was good because we handled it in a way where, first of all, we're all grown adults, right? Like, we're not kids. I just think that auditioning someone is super stressful. I know it's even stressful for us on the other side because we want the person to be good. Like, we want it to be the guy that we're looking for, or girl, because we did have such a nice conversation with him before, you know, coming into the room and jamming. So we were hopeful because he did seem like a nice guy, and he did have some credentials under him, and he didn't seem like such a flake. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have a lot of quirks, and we were very happy. And he's a 9-to-5 blue collar guy and family man. You know, sometimes that really says a lot about somebody if they're responsible to have a, hopefully, a 9-to-5 job and a family. You know, he has 3 kids, and he's a health nut, so kind of like yourself. He's very, you know, very, very health conscious. You know, when you find those kind of people, you know, with that background, you kind of understand the kind of person you're going to be dealing with, and you know, just by people's lives, you kind of know what kind of person they're going to be to work with, you know, in a team effort. So auditioning, man, to me is very stressful for everybody involved. And my advice to anybody that's auditioning is, you know, try to make it as comfortable as possible, and don't let that person freak out, or because you want them to be the best. Because it's not very rarely you're going to find someone right off the bat where you go, yeah, this is the guy. Like when Eric left that night, me and the guys at band were like, wow, like this looks, we have something special here. There is definitely, we knew it right from the get-go. As soon as we did the first couple songs, like you kind of have an idea. Not always, but you kind of have an idea, but you don't want to jump the gun. So we said, all right, you know what, let's bring him back, and we'll work again. And each time he came back, it got better and better and better. And now the songs are better than they have ever been. First, you got to figure out what you're looking for, the kind of person you're looking for. You got to give that person time to kind of work in their own, find their own spot. Again, auditioning is super, super stressful. You want to try to make it as easy as possible for the person that's coming in. That's my main advice. And if you have material, get them to learn it. Like, try not to have them come in blind. I mean, if that's your thing, then that's cool too. But it was really nice that, you know, when we talked to Eric online, he was like, all right, you know, give me a couple weeks, I'll learn 2 or 3 songs. And so when he came in, we had like 2.5 songs done. We then knew, and that's another thing, we knew that he was super professional and super committed to what we were doing. To me, that's the main thing. Like, just try to make it as easy and as less stressful as possible, because auditioning sucks.
Oh, I totally agree. I've only had to audition a couple times, and that was years and years ago, and I realized I never liked it. So from that point forward, I just created my own bands, and it made it a lot easier for me. Right. However, it is stressful. It's stressful for the band, and it's stressful for the individual or individuals who are coming in. I've seen it. With this band alone, I've experienced it more times than I'd like to remember, than I ever hoped that I had to. I'll be the first one to say that sometimes you don't make the right decision. And
no,
You know, like you said, you go in it with the hope that, hey, this is the person, right? You're trying to make things work. You want to make things work for a lot of different reasons. I have had the unfortunate situations where I made decisions out of almost desperation because of being under the gun, a schedule that needed to be met and that we were obligated to keep. But obligation is obligation. And I talked about in other episodes, I'm not one to cancel shows or to not come through with what I said or promised. If it has to be altered, that's one thing, but if it has to be pulled completely, that's a whole different story. And it's very hard to maintain a brand if you're constantly pulling the rug out from people that they're prepared, when they're waiting for something.
Yeah.
So I do admit that. I've learned that along the way. I've repeated it, unfortunately, several times because it seems that, listen, there's no good time when someone leaves a band.
No.
Even when you have forewarning of it. It's just not a good thing, right? It does set apart this line sometimes between, there's a division that immediately happens because feelings are involved, especially if it's somebody that's been a long time, or that you feel fits so well with the band and it just rocks everything that you're doing. Because sometimes it happens for us that somebody leaves and it comes out of left field. You just didn't expect it. Like, what? Where's this coming?
You are listening to the Cosmick Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
So, auditioning the new guy. When you're the band auditioning the new guy, when you're the artist auditioning the new guy, in my opinion, what I've learned through this whole process is you have to be transparent right from the beginning.
Right
that means they have to know what they're getting into so there's no surprises. If you're a working band, they need to know what that means.
Yep.
Because their definition of a working band may be a band that just plays some gigs twice a month.
Yep.
Your definition of a working band is you play a lot more often than that and a lot of different states. And you're on the road or you're doing this. If you're a band that's involved in recording, you don't just put out an album once a year or every 2 years. You're literally in the studio every month working on songs with multiple releases throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
You have to let people know what is to be expected. Now, I've been in the position where I've let people know this. I've always been transparent. I'd rather have it out in the open right away. If there's going to be a problem, I want to know in the very beginning. Does it suck? Yeah, but I can get over it much faster than getting involved in the trench and then all of a sudden the tank stops working and you don't know where to start.
Yep.
I'd rather know the problem in the beginning. I'll get over it and then I can think through it. Then I can come up with options.
Yeah.
But I've had guys where you've been transparent. Hey, listen, this is the kind of band we are. We travel. We're on the road. We've done overseas shows. Everybody gets excited. I'm going to be a rock star. And then when they realize the amount of work that's involved in being a rock star, they're like, I can't do this. And then all of a sudden it's your fault. Yeah. So I've been up to the kind of thought process that they don't have to be the best, but if they have drive and passion, we can make anything work. They could be the greatest singer in the world, but if they got an attitude like a porcupine, I don't want anything to do with them. I've actually had somebody in the band. They were a phenomenal singer. They had all this ability. Plus, they had the ability to record at home and stuff like that. Within a month of bringing them on board, we were actually doing recordings and stuff like that. Well, within a month, things just went haywire. Because they were the greatest musician in their mind, they thought that they could get away with saying all this stuff. And here was the thing. They never did any research on us, the band. So they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. We cut ties immediately. It's like, I'm not even going down this road.
Yeah.
You have to be transparent. They have to have the music. They have to be well informed. They need all the information because they're the ones coming in blind. They don't know. They don't know what you do. They don't know how you do it.
Yeah, I've even gone as far as, like telling any individual whom I've auditioned throughout my entire longevity of doing this, I've gone down to going, this is what we do, this is the night or the nights we rehearse. If we can't make it, that's okay. We can always change it. If it can't be a full band, if we can get through some songs with half a band, then we'll do that. Because sometimes, especially as we get older, not everybody can make rehearsals. I mean, we just can't. It's how it is. If 2 guitar players and a drummer show up, that's great. If a guitar player and bass player and a drummer show up, that's great too. Like, just to keep it moving. And, I've made that clear too. Like, these are the nights we rehearse. We can always change if we have to. We can always add if we have to. We can always, if there's a show coming up, we can throw it another day, another night, whatever the case may be. Just kind of how you run your band, right? Like, I make the decisions in the band, or any decision made in the band is democracy. Like, you just got to fill them in. You don't want to give them too much information, until they're actually in the band, but you want to give them enough information to be able to make the decision. Like you were saying, Mick, like, you want to be completely transparent about, if we get a show and we travel, this is how we do it. This is what works for us. This is where, would that work for you? Whether it's splitting costs or however, you want to be completely transparent. So that person, like you said, is not blindsided when they come through the door and they end up in the band.
Exactly. So you got somebody coming in. Learning 3 to 5 songs is not an uncommon thing, especially if you're giving them a couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
And if they've been in other bands, this should be normal to them. Provide them with a Dropbox link or WeTransfer. Provide them with MP3 files so they can hear them. I've gotten into the habit now that I have a tab system that I write everything down, and a lot of that's become just so that I don't completely forget. So that if I can hear the song, it's more of a visual cue for me. So I go, okay, my hearing's not the greatest as it once was. My memory isn't. My playing isn't. So if I can get it into some kind of form like that, it helps. But I have also found that for players, this helps as well. Not everybody. Not everybody needs it, but it's there if they do. And I've had people go, hey, this gives us a real quick, easy reference. Okay, great, fantastic. Now, this year, my longtime bass player just decided that was it. It was done. He was retiring. And so we were scrambling for stuff because we already had the rest of the year obligated to. And like I said earlier, I'm not one to relinquish on those obligations. We did as many workarounds as we possibly could, but we had to bring people in. We went through a bunch of different people. And I was shocked at the amount of people that came in unprepared. Even with just giving them a song or two. Let's see where you're at. We've done this with the singers as well, unfortunately. We had to bring somebody in. There were several singers we had to tour with. We gave them the material, and they would come in unprepared. Which then there's an hour of your time wasted, because you wouldn't even do full things. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's, And then they're shocked. You say, okay, just to let you know, we're auditioning other people, and we'll keep you posted. And they're shocked at that. They think that just because they come in, they get the job. Well, it doesn't work like that. It works like that if you're George Lynch. Let's come in. Let's just see how we gel together. We pretty much know we're going to do something once the contracts are worked out, but I just want to see what we can do.
Right.
But I've gotten into the habit over the years, and I started this with the singers a couple years back, is that we'll do MP3 auditions. I'll send you an MP3. You send me an MP3 back with you singing. You could do karaoke style. You could do it. I'll send you a track with vocals, without vocals. And you can decide however you want to do it. I'm not worried about quality, because at this stage of the game, if you're good, I know you're good. I'm not worried about what your technical abilities in the studio are. We have guys for that. Thank you very much. I'm just looking for you to be a singer or a guitar player or whatever. And I had guys go, no, I'm not doing that. I come in and play with the band, or I don't come in at all. Okay, well, then you don't come in at all. Thank you. Check. Move on. In today's age, if you're not going to utilize some of the advantages to the technology that are at your disposal, so if it's an hour drive, why would you do it? Unless you really need it. Why don't you first see if you can do it? Here's some recordings. What do you think? You may decide, hey, this isn't what I want to do. Or, or whatever. Yep. So you've saved yourself some time. Then coming out, uncomfortable position, like you said, it's very stressful. I don't care who you are. Anytime you're in a brand new environment, it's not easing, right? Unless you're completely immune to any feeling. And I guess there are some people out there that are like that.
You're speaking on that, being prepared. You and I, we have a mutual friend who his band was auditioning drummers, and he got a hold of a drummer, and the drummer was like, all right, send me a track or two. And they sent him, I think they sent him 2 tracks. And he was like, all right, give me some time. And that might have been like 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks. Showed up for rehearsal. Didn't know a note. Oh, I just didn't get a chance to listen to it. Well, then why are you here? Like, or why don't you just go, hey, man, listen, I didn't have time to listen to it. Can we put it off for another week or two? Like you said, how are you going to waste everybody's time? You're going to walk into an audition and not know anything. Go, all right, well, let's play and see what comes out. No, it doesn't work like that. Like, maybe if we're doing new stuff, okay, that makes sense. But you can't audition for a band and come in and not know anything. Like, that doesn't even make, like, that is completely floors me. Completely floors me. I know there are some people that just can't learn that way. They just don't have that ability. That's okay too. But at least try, at least learn the song. So at least you can play along with it. Even if it's not perfect, at least show you made some attempt to, you're not wasting everybody's time. You know, at least show some kind of attempt that you're interested in doing this. Because this person was interested in joining the band, but he blew it for himself. Doesn't make sense.
I had a singer tell me, yeah, I got 10 songs. I'll go, oh man, that's amazing. Amazing. We get him into the studio, for the rehearsal. He didn't even have 5. He had about 3, and he had to use a teleprompter for most of the time. It's like, well, when are you going to learn these songs? He couldn't get past the teleprompter. It's like, it was just a bucket list thing for him. We let him go. I'll tell you what, when Frankie came in, he had 12 songs, first rehearsal. I was like, wow. I mean, we were just shocked at that. I was like, that's amazing. But he was cut from a very similar cloth. There was another singer that came in, too, that was well prepared. And that's a good sign of what you're probably going to be dealing with in terms of how they approach the professionalism of the music. Unfortunately, that singer couldn't handle touring. Just didn't like the touring aspect of it. And like I said, then there's other people that just have the egos and whatnot. And you can't make it too easy, but you have to make it accessible for success, to make it successful. It's not a military camp. You need to have some flexibility to demonstrate their ability. I've always told guys that come in, I said, look, just do the basics. You don't have to follow everything that's there. As long as you're in tune and in time, the rest of it will fall into place. Play the basics, because once you make these songs natural to you, then you can start firing everything in that you need to do.
Right.
Because then I want you to make the songs your own, because then they are yours now. And
100%.
I've had people come in that said, well, I've always worked in cover bands. Well, this is like a cover band then to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not writing them songs. You're not arranging songs. Just follow along what they did on the tape. Here's the words. Here's the tab. Here's whatever. You have the music. Play along with it. It's a cover act. An unknown cover act.
And that's just like, when we were auditioning our new guy, he came in, he knew 2.5 songs almost perfectly. Like, he really did. You could tell he did his homework. And even on that third song, we got halfway through and he was like, oh man, I'm sorry. Like, I couldn't, I have a little trouble with this one. And we went, no worries, man, because the other 2 were pretty awesome. You got through half of this one and this was your first night with us. We're not even flinching about it. Like, it's all good. Then the next rehearsal, he knew 2 more songs. So by our third rehearsal with the guy, we probably could have played out the next night. It would have been perfect? No. But if we needed to, we could have. And that was a guy that did his homework, and he knew exactly what. Now, going by what you just said, we had the same conversation, because I think our second rehearsal with him, he did something different that wasn't on the recording. He just did it on the fly. And we got done the song, we were like, dude, we really like that role or whatever it was. He was like, yeah, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm really trying to keep it to the recording. We were like, no, don't. As long as you're keeping the song going and where it makes sense, you do you, bro. Like, do you. We don't want you to do what he did. We want you to do what you did. And guess what? Like I said earlier in the show, he brought a whole new life to these songs. Whole new life. Like, it's gotten to the point where either my 2 guitar players, George and Dan, like, they're playing riffs differently and more clearly because of the way he's playing them. Like, he just brought this whole new life to these songs because of how he plays. And we're lucky that way. I totally understand it doesn't always work like that, but giving him that space and that reinforcement of, yeah, man, like, you're doing good. Don't worry about it. Relax, breathe. You got it. Keep going. Pat on the back, high five. let's do this. So by the time we were in our 5th rehearsal is when, we asked him to join officially. He pretty much was firing on all cylinders. I mean, even to this day, he still has to think of, we can't just rattle off a song. Like some songs he knows, but not everything we could rattle off a song. And he goes, I know that song. And sometimes he goes, how's that go? But you know what? He's put in a lot of work in a short amount of time. So, and, now we are in the midst of writing and recording a new record. So he's getting his own stuff in, especially with the new stuff. But just like you said, man, you got to make it your own. But the song has to stay, where it should be. But you make it your own. As long as you're not completely changing the song. Like I know previously I said that the guys were playing the riffs different, but that's not because of he's just playing it differently and more clearer. So it's giving those guys more room. They're not playing catch up or they're not slowing it down. It's just giving a new life to the song. But the basis of the song is still there. It's not any different. He's just playing it differently, where it kind of gives it a new spark, where it changes everything. It changes the sonic of it. That just goes with, being prepared.
Yeah, I agree. Like when we brought in Mad T, I was sure 100% he was the guy that we were going to move with, because he had already been filling in with us. We had him on tour with us. So I knew that he knew a good chunk of the material. He was passionate about it. He was supportive about it. He was a good team player. We found that once we brought him on board, there were stylistic differences between the previous drummer and him. As he himself even tried to replicate, it just hit me. And I said, listen, do it your way. Just do it your way. Again, stay in time, hit those points that need to be in the song, but do whatever it is your way. If your thing isn't with the feet and it's more with the hands, or if you do something on the hi-hat rather than doing it over, whatever, just do it. We continued on. We were playing shows. We didn't miss a beat. But when we were in rehearsal, it was a summer chunk of doing rehearsals. We were doing more of that. As soon as we found that was starting to work, it was making sense. And like you said, it changed the song in a good way. We kept saying, okay, now do that here, do that here, do that here. Within that 3-month span, because like you said earlier, it will take time to make that full transition. Anytime you bring in a new member, the dynamics will change.
Yep.
They will change. What we want them to do is change for the better, to push everybody else's, level. That glass ceiling goes up, and then everybody's coming up together. So within that 3 months, we were changing, evolving, and we noticed that, and I talked about this in another episode, Frankie, our vocalist, was getting more melodic because he wasn't competing with the drums. The drums were accenting what he was doing rather than trying to be an individual player. Yes, we're all individual players, but we're playing as a unit, and one should help the other, back everybody up. And again, in my opinion, if you have a lead singer, the band's job is to support that singer with the vocals. Everything builds around that. And then everybody has their highs and lows, and I get that. But so much so that after a while, we started altering songs when we started to re-record some of the old stuff to make them this new way. And it brought them into some new place, which then changed, like you said, our style of playing, but not what we did, right? We still had that sound, what we do, our arrangements and stuff, but there was something different about it. To me, it was a positive. It's probably one of the greatest moves I ever made. You know what I mean? People don't have to be perfect. They don't even have to be the best. If there's potential there and there's passion with that potential, it's unbelievable where you can go with it.
Totally agree, dude. Totally agree. Because, commitment and work ethic is everything. I'd rather have commitment and work ethic and being a team player than someone that is 100% precise, honestly. Because I can work around someone that's not precise, but I can't work around someone that doesn't have the same commitments or the same team playing attitude that I or we have. It just doesn't work. It does not work.
I agree, man. I agree wholeheartedly. Because somebody can always get better. They really can.
100%.
Right? If you're an older band, you bring in a young guy. Now listen, they may not be as seasoned both in the business and just how things are done, in the playing or whatever. But there's potential there. There's time. And they're going to only get better because they're playing with seasoned individuals. I was fortunate enough as a young person, I played with older musicians, which really helped me gain a certain insight, a certain ability that I don't think I would have gotten in a situation where I was playing with kids my own age, because they didn't have that experience. They didn't have that knowledge, that know-how that I was able to pick up, like almost like, street smarts in the music that I wouldn't have gotten someplace else. Listen, it was not easy, especially, being a young person with older people. You're like the whipping boy, so to speak, and it was tough. It was tough. But I don't think I would have, maybe there were some things I would have changed, but I think the learning that I got, the work ethic, as you mentioned, I don't think I would trade that, because it's been beneficial to me my entire career, and not just in music, but in other things as well. I don't think I'd still be doing it today if I didn't have that ethic, the things that I learned.
Right.
I think that some of that's missing today. Like I said, I considered wholeheartedly bringing in younger players, because bands that want to continue going on may not be able to do it with older players, because there is that tiredness sometimes. They get set in their ways. You know what I'm talking about. So bringing in some younger players kind of can invigorate or reinvigorate a band. They can create some inspiration. Case in point, when Richie was brought into Judas Priest, that band was just about to close shop.
Yeah.
They talked about it, but he brought in this whole new life. And like we were talking before about this subject privately, it's like, new perspective, new energy, new whatever. And you can take 100%. That old box, add some new corners to it, and all of a sudden you got yourself, it's out there with Amazon. You know what I mean?
100%.
100%.
100%.
That's one of the greatest things about bringing in new blood. If it's done right, there's an uptick. I've brought people in, unfortunately, that honeymoon disappeared within days.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame. And you're obligated to do a certain thing, but then you got to cut bait when you can. Otherwise, they're bringing everybody down. And it's a shame. Some of that's my own fault, because desperation sometimes is not the best tool to utilize. You know what I mean?
No,
and it's just, when your back's against the wall. But I've learned along the way. I think I've gotten better at it. But going back to that, if you're coming in, you can't expect that the job's already yours. You still have to earn it. And as Chris was saying, you got to come in prepared. If they tell you to learn 5 songs and they give you the time to do it, well, then you should do it. If you don't have it, it's your job as well to be transparent and say, look, here's the thing. You gave me 5 songs. 3 of them I got pretty solid. 4 and 5, I'll tell you what, I think I can get through them about 80%, but if we do it together and I can see what we're doing, I'm sure I can get it. And I just recently experienced this with yet another bass player that I brought in, because we had a transition bass player and we're working in trying to a permanent. This guy's seasoned, he's skilled, he's been around the block, he's still relatively young compared to my age. He's meticulous about how he plays and what he wants to put forth. He had pretty much 90% of the set that we gave him, not the entire set, but the set that I gave him. And he says the rest of it, that 10%, maybe 15%, I just need to do it with you and quickly work out the kinks. And boom, we went through it once. He goes, let's do that song again. He hit it spot on. And that's somebody who's putting their time in and then putting the extra effort in. And listen, you have to be flexible enough, too, as the person doing the audition, that not everybody's going to come in completely perfect. But see how they operate. Some guys, they don't work well like that at first. It's nerve-wracking. It's like being at a test. Not everybody does well in tests. That doesn't mean that they can't perform. It's just when someone's breathing down their neck or they feel like they're being backed in a corner, it can be very difficult for somebody. But once they feel that they have a grasp of it, a little bit more relaxed, or they're feeling supportive, you'd be surprised at what people can do in a short period of time.
It's true. It's definitely true.
Listen, I know there's a lot more that we could say on it, but what do you think? You have anything else you want to add?
I think the only thing I do want to add is, we've been talking about it from the viewpoint of doing an audition. We also have to look at it from the person who's actually doing the audition. And it works the same way. I think the biggest thing is both parties have to be super transparent. You, as an artist or a band that's auditioning somebody, like Mick and I had said earlier, you got to be transparent. You got to tell them everything. And you, if you're doing the audition, you also have to be transparent. What are your concerns? What are your strong points? What are your weak points? What are you willing to do? You know, like Mick just said with him auditioning a newer bass player, same thing. Came in, was honest. Listen, I could do these songs, have a little issue with this, but let's work it out. Let's jam it together. And that just shows a great attitude and a commitment. And that's really, that's what you need, because everything else can be worked out. It goes both ways. You got to be super transparent, both ways.
Absolutely. It goes back to what we said in the very first season. Everything revolves around good communication. You have that, anything is possible. You don't have that, pretty much it's going to be impossible. If you like this episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmickvoice.com. Step into the Cosmic Verse and fill that void. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmickvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, Mick and I would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes of The Cosmic Voice. And you can get in touch with us through thecosmickvoice.com and, of course, all of the Cosmic Voice social medias. Take care and be safe.
You're listening to the Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.